I get it. You're talking about bringing another person on staff. That's more money. I understand all that.
Right.
But if you want to create a fair program, top to bottom, for the drivers, for the crews, for the fans, for everybody, I think a race director that is in the position to make those calls is necessary.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Now, you've done it 100 times. I've done it 100 times. How many times have you been watching turn 2 or turn 3, and there's a race for the lead into turn 3, and
Just
you're watching
weekend.
it, and you see something out of the corner of your eye, and there's a wreck coming out of turn 2. I know there was a wreck.
But who caused it?
I saw the end result. But what
how
really
did it
happened?
start?
Now, can you imagine being a flagger?
No.
Can you imagine being a flagger in a position of authority, having to make that decision? That's when, and again, I'm not saying anybody is right. I'm not saying anybody is wrong. When I went on Jeremy's page this week and said, dude, I wouldn't want your job. You couldn't offer me $500, $600, $700 a night to do that job because you're going to be loved on one side and hated on the other. That's the way it is. I just wouldn't want to put myself in that position.
I personally, and that's the thing too, is that I personally, I agree 1,000% with you, is that is so much work, not only to be a flagger, especially at Sunset where it's so small that you look at the track and everything else and go, man, how can you make a decision like that and to be able to watch the races? Now, Willamette Speedway, a little bit easier, I think, because it's bigger. Things
That's what makes it harder.
Slower.
It's panoramically, it's bigger.
Yeah.
It's
so
harder.
If you're watching something over in turn
Right.
number 1 and turn 2, and there's cars over there in 3 and 4, you can't go. Literally, he's got to turn his whole body. At least at Sunset, you're kind of looking in out of your peripheral.
Mm-hmm.
You can see 3 and 4, but
Right.
still to make those decisions, couldn't do it.
No. And I feel bad for some of the stuff that was directed at Jeremy.
Well,
but again, it's perspective, and I think Jeremy, doing what he does, I think he's in his, I don't know, 6th, 7th year of flagging, something like that now.
2 weeks.
No, he's been doing it a while.
He's only been in there a
He's
couple days.
been doing it a while. He's done several tracks. I think, given everything that happens, and again, given his position, he does a pretty good job of staying out of the drama. Now, he did kind of go on and this week on Facebook defend himself, saying,
Well, see, hold on. Let me stop you right there real quick. For one, stop defending yourself.
Well, it wasn't that he was defending himself. He was saying, hey, look, I'm there to do a job. I'm going to make calls. I'm going to be the good guy, and I'm going to be the bad guy. I mean, he put that perspective out. Again, I don't know what Jeremy saw.
It doesn't matter what he saw.
I wasn't. Well, the final call, I don't know how he saw that go down. Now, do I think Thompson should have been the third car in line? I absolutely do, based upon the rule that I've always known.
Well, we'll put it like this, okay? I'm sending out a message right now to Justin, our flagger, and just to talk about his perspective and stuff as a flagger and
I would welcome,
as a reg director.
I would welcome Jeremy on this show anytime.
Yeah, and Jeremy reads our posts. Jeremy does all that type of stuff.
Absolutely.
If he wants to come on and clear the air or whatever the case is, this is my deal, is that you have to have thick skin to do their job.
You absolutely do.
Because I'll tell you what, you start acting like a wuss, you start acting like having all these people who are like that push you around, you know what? Get out of the box, man. Stop doing what you're doing.
You guys,
Stop.
Justin and Jeremy, have done a good job of they've got that thick skin.
Yeah, they do. Even kart racing. I sat there a couple times, whatever like that, and flagged a kart race or whatever. And you're gonna have people that's pissed off.
I
and all
think
that
that's
kind of
even
stuff.
harder. Kart race is even harder.
They're crybabies.
Well,
more
and
than anything.
it happens so fast.
Dude, they're stupid.
And
they're so stupid.
Shut up. We race karts.
I know, but they're the biggest crybabies.
It's true.
I've ever seen in my whole life.
It's true.
I've never seen grown ass men cry Because, oh my God, he touched my body work. Oh my, shut up, dude. It's racing.
It's racing.
It's go-kart racing.
You
Who
know.
cares? But I mean, it just goes back to. I mean, it goes back to this. I mean, now you really got me worked up. So,
I wish you guys could see Josh. He's actually red. He's
man,
fired
okay.
up.
But what irritates the hell out of me is this: is that people put a fight in. You know, we'll put a fight in there that they want to sit there and talk a bunch of smack about things that they are not involved in. Just because they're next to the situation, or if they're part of something or whatever like that, they want to sit there and put their 2 cents in. Well, you know what? What it is that they need to sit there and keep their opinions to themselves. I mean, mind you, do what you're going to do and all that type of stuff or whatever, but don't sit there and blast a track, blast a flagger, blast a race official, blast somebody else or whatever that you know. That isn't their part, because you know what? 9 times out of 10, they're either doing it because they love doing it. They're doing it either as a voluntary basis or whatever like that. They don't need outside people sitting there saying, you know what, you're excuse my French, you're a beep 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 and a beep beep beep, and this is how you should run it. Well, you know what? If you think I should run my job better, dude, I will hand whatever over to you, and you get up there and you do that.
Okay, check this out. After all that being said and all that whole situation I talked about,
I love my race fans.
I had a phone conversation with one Mr. Brian Thompson. Okay?
Okay.
This is the kind of man Brian is. Okay, let me tell you about. He's a racer.
Right.
He's a
Oh, yeah,
racer.
absolutely.
He's all about rules.
Okay.
Okay. I'll tell you right now, he's listening. Okay.
Of course he's listening.
Thompson says to me,
We're
you know what?
We're the best podcast, Northwest Dirt News in the.
This is what Brian
Come on.
says to me. This is what Brian says to me. He
Okay.
says, you know what? I have watched that video 100 times. He says, I can't see anywhere in that video where anybody's at fault.
It's a racing deal.
Okay?
Just like Arnie Case and Mark Fair.
That
That's
being
the reason
said-
why I had somebody that's non-biased,
But-
that happened to be in that same race right behind him, say what she saw.
Okay, that being said, he also told me, I can see how Jeremy made his decision. Okay? He wasn't mad at Jeremy at all. Okay? Brian, in the situation as a leader, sent to the back.
Pass lap cars.
Well, but regardless, he manned up and says, hey, look,
It is what it is.
you know, I got under him. I can see that, you know, if Jeremy saw it was my fault, it's my fault. Okay? Now, while we're sitting here, I have on the Moxie line, Mr.
No, on the Crocker's car.
on the the Crocker's Cars calling
See,
line.
it's your night tonight.
In the Moxie studio. Okay, so on the Crocker's Cars calling line, I have Mr. Brian Thompson. Brian, are you there?
Yes, sir.
How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Down in Klamath Falls, working.
You're down in Klamath Falls listening to us, huh?
I came down to buy some rigs.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So-
if he's not in
man.
Klamath Falls, he's in Spokane or he's in Idaho. I mean, this guy's all over.
That's exactly right. Somewhere all the time, right?
Absolutely. So, Brian, and I told everybody what our conversation consisted of, you know, about how you said, hey, look, that's a decision. We got to live with it. I got under him. If that's the way he called it, that's the way he called it. Let's talk about your perspective from the cockpit in that situation.
Yeah, you know, we came out going into one. I went low. They were all kind of running high. I came out at 2 low, and I had a ton of drive coming out of there, and I was kind of pretty close to door with him. And this was prior to me watching the video of what happened. And he pulled me down the backstretch, and then he knew I was there. So my opinion was that he was going to hold his line because I'm the leader lapping him, and I would just go my usual line. And my car was so good I could drive in so deep and let it rotate, didn't go, you know. And next thing you know, he's a little bit sideways or in front of me a little bit loose, and I'm on the binders trying to slow down, blow up, and stay out of him. And I wasn't even 100% sure that I touched him, and he spun out, and I never came to a stop or anything. I thought, that was close. That would have sucked if that had been me. And the next thing I know, Jeremy's calling the caution on me, which at the time was I was redheaded from head to toe. Wasn't very happy with that deal, but I kept a pretty level head about it, and I got home and found a good video to watch of that deal, and he pulled on me going down the back stretch. He had a car on his outside, so he had to, and he was clear of me going into turn 3. And, but, you know, I think I was, you know, we ran, 30 laps straight, and my foot was a memory, a muscle memory of when to let off and when not to let off, and I just drove it in. I just cooked it in a little bit too far, and I mean, you know as well as I do, when you're on the bars and going into the corner and you get a little bit loose, that you can push that car with your hand and it'll spin out, you know, and let alone hitting it with the bumper and a little bit and with momentum, and he spun out. And it was the right call. Looking back on it, I have no ill feeling. I've told everybody that asked me, and you know, everybody was pretty fired up after the race. No one more was fired up than my mother. That was interesting, but yeah, you know, I kept a pretty level head about it, just because I didn't want to, you know, make an emotional decision, you know, based on not having all the facts. And I wanted to see the video, and I saw the video, and man, I'll tell you what, if I was standing on the flag stand, I would have made the same call.
So, Brian, this is Josh and stuff. I got a question and stuff for you. Is that the call is fine, and I understand that. The call that I don't understand is if you're already passing all those other cars and you're coming up to third place and everybody else is a lap behind you, why did you go to the very back of the pack of 13 cars? You realistically should have only went to the third place.
You know, and I've had a lot of people say that very same thing, and I haven't. I've only been racing. I think this is my third year or 3.5 years that I've been racing, and so I don't know all the rules and all that. But a lot of people say I should have started third. I did talk to a guy that's been racing out there for 20-some years, and he said it's always been kind of a rule out there that if a situation like that arises, which is not very often, but if you cause the crash, then you go to the back.
You go
and
back.
Then you go to the back of the pack, not the back of your spot. You go to the back of the pack. If you cause the yellow, and then if another yellow comes out, then you go get your spot back.
Okay, but
if you don't cause the yellow, the second one. So if you're in the lead, like that situation was, I caused the yellow, I get sent to the back of the lap cars, back to everybody. And then inside, if another yellow comes out, then I would go back in front of the lap cars.
Okay, so this is the question then.
I think that's where you and I both disagree on this rule.
Yeah, see, is this?
Yeah, and I don't agree with it. Well, you know, Jeremy always says inside of 10. I mean, every pit meeting every weekend. Inside of 10, lap cars go to the back. Leaders, you know, the lead cars are in the front. Inside of 10, the lap cars go to the back.
Right. So this is
it's in the pit meeting every weekend.
So
that's an interesting situation. It don't happen all the time. So.
Okay, so now since this is out there, okay, and this is the controversy, is that this is what needs to be cleared up. Is that me personally think that regardless how many laps, you know, I don't care if you had 127 laps more to go or 3 laps to go, if the caution came out and you've passed all those cars and their laps down, you do not go to the back of that whole pack. Say if there's 500 cars out there, you're telling me you have to go back to 500 place?
I agree with you on this, Josh.
That to me is absolutely ridiculous.
I don't disagree, Josh. Not one second. I'm not arguing with the fact. I wish I would have started third because I think I still would have won the race with just 3 laps to go. My car was that good.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, you know, everybody likes the history of tracks, and everything to stay the same. Well, if that's the history of the track, who am I to change it? You know,
but
that's just if that's the way they've always done it, then that's the way it is. We all know it going in, but that's the problem we have is the inconsistency of. I don't think anything's on purpose. I make mistakes every day of my life, but you know, in the heat of the battle, you know, Jeremy. Think about Jeremy. Okay. I sponsored this race. I bought $3,000 worth of TVs to give away.
Right, and I still didn't get one.
This race, and the guy had the balls to enforce the rule. I mean, that's a huge. That's in my book. I gained a little more respect for Jeremy because he made the decision. He stuck with it, knowing circumstances.
Well, and see, that's the thing too, is that, you know, he's been put under scrutiny more times this year than I've ever heard about incidents. You know, we talk about the Colin Weinbarger deal. We talk about, you know, incidents and stuff that happened with him, other drivers and stuff that happened on the track. Me and Corey agree 1,000% to be a flagger, and on top of that, to be a race director. That's the most suckiest job at a racetrack I've ever thought in my life. It needs to be a race director is a race director, a flagger is a flagger,
Right.
A promoter is a promoter, you know, an official is official, whatever the case is.